Hello, everyone. This is Melina and
Jordan.
we are the board certified bays.
Bays. Did you see that R that I just said on my name? I sounded American for real.
I didn't hear it. Sorry.
We can play that back.
Oh, yeah.
I pulled it off. That was nice.
Okay. Well, anyways, welcome back, everyone. I hope that you guys have been doing well. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's an interesting
Good.
topic. We can try to keep it short. But
Try.
it's an interesting one.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Just
All flowery today?
yeah. I feel like
Not spring.
it's not spring flowers.
At least when we record this.
It's not like spring floral though. It's like fall.
What?
Fall winter floral.
Is it? Okay. If you say so, I'll believe it. So today we're going to talk about biases. Bias.
What's a bias?
I don't know. What is it?
I'm not doing that. You explain things and I just contribute afterwards. Go ahead.
Why is it always got to be that
Because
way?
you explain it so eloquently and because you have an accent, it sounds like we're on a National Geographic show.
What? Wow. Okay. So a bias is basically just a intentional or unintentional way to skew data, information, and in various ways depending on what type of bias. Just means that what you're doing is basically not accurate.
Good job. I feel like I already knew what it was, but like now I feel like I know it even more because you explained it.
Yeah.
So well.
Okay.
There
Okay.
you go.
Sure.
Okay, well, we are in a field that is technically a science, right? So how does that affect our work?
Technically a science? We are a science. What do you mean technically? There's no technicality here. The ABA is a science. It is tried. It is proven. It is replicated. That is science.
So then how does it affect our work in this science?
How do bias affect our work? Okay, so us as an individual, we are likely to go and work on things in or take data in ways that are going to be beneficial. There's that. Now, when biases come in, that can skew the way that we're doing things, because if we are too much wanting success in certain ways, we might lean towards grading or recording things in a more successful light. So it can have a huge effect on what we do in the workplace. And it's very important for us to be mindful of them. Both, as an individual and as a company, all in one.
Yeah, I agree. That is a great.
Is there anything you'd like to add to that as to why it can affect our work?
Yeah, I mean, like I think we all have our own baggage. I think sometimes if we carry it in, it can negatively impact our clients, our staff, etc. And that sometimes we may like have them but don't realize. So maybe we end up treating someone a way that we don't realize that we're doing. And like you were saying too, like I've had moments where I feel like I've worked with, older students and I'm like, I just want them to be successful, and everything in me is like, just mark it positive, but that's not how we can do it, because it's like, well, they really tried. And then it's like, no, that's not
what
that
we're here for.
screws everything up. So even that, right? Like I feel like it's so hard sometimes because you're like, I just want them to be successful, or like that parent really tried. Wrong, but they tried.
Well, you can reward effort,
Yeah.
not accuracy.
Yeah.
But biases come from our thoughts, beliefs, experiences. They help to shape us who we are, which also helps to shape our thought patterns and the way we perceive things that are happening in front of us. We have to do the best that we can to be aware of those. The ones that are unconscious or unintentional, those ones are the more difficult ones. But if someone brings it to your attention, you really have to make sure that you are cognitively thinking about it.
Yeah.
In order to make
and
some
not get
change
offended.
there. Yeah. Don't have to throw up the walls and be defensive about it, because at the end of the day, it's not about you. It's about the clients you serve.
Yep.
Right? And we should always lead with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I know one thing that I struggle with is entitlement.
Okay.
Um
Please elaborate.
yeah, I will. So like for me, when I have a client that I feel like I'm more so I guess working with the parent, right?
Okay.
Like when there's a sense of entitlement, it's really hard for me. Like we've had like instances where we've worked with, high like a high profile person or something like that, and they like kind of expect the world and everything, and like it's almost frustrating because you feel like they're talking down to you. You know what I mean? And so like although maybe it's not the same. I feel like it makes me like have to really step back and make sure that the quality that I'm giving forth to their child isn't changed or not as good or is neglected because I'm frustrated that mom is really entitled. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm following.
Okay. So I don't know. That's one thing that I've realized I've had to like be mindful of is like sometimes I just come in with like a thought of like, ugh, you know, like they don't, truly I don't know. I don't know. I'm just gonna stop there because I feel like I'm just gonna keep going. But I feel like that's one thing that I've realized I've had to kind of step back and realize like when I have a bias of a person and I think it's because they come off as entitled.
Sure. I mean, you're human. You're allowed to have them. That's what makes us human is our thoughts,
Right. But
beliefs,
not
and
to
feelings
act
about
on
things.
it.
Yeah, but that's where self-control comes in.
Right.
Right. And we have to have a lot of self-control with how we are doing our services because of things like that.
Yeah.
Because we also have to have that realization that it's not about us.
Mm-mm.
It's about them. We're trying to help. There are always going to be wants and needs that we
And I'm not saying
may
like
not be able
just
to give.
work with abusive people. I'm not saying that because there are times where it is also appropriate for you to be like, I don't think um, this is a good fit, right? Like,
Okay.
so I'm not talking about those instances. But yeah. Anyways, so
Okay. That
just
makes
had to
sense.
elaborate on that.
Yeah. No, that fits. I understand you.
Okay.
I walk through life with you. I know what this is.
Okay.
So, I mean, how do we break, biases? I guess it really comes down to which ones are we identifying. First, there are a lot of different ones out there, and you can Google, but some of the ones that are important that we can find out specifically for our field is measurement bias. Right, I'll bring that one up. Right, where we are recording either too much or too little of something because we are basically estimating for like the simplistic terms. And we continually do that, right? It's not that it's a one-off or it's a random occurrence. It's something that continuously happens. I think another one is confirmation bias. If we're like, we're going to work on this program as a BCBA, I'm like, we're going to work on this program and this is why. And we only go out there and we only seek the information that is going to support our ideas.
Yeah.
Right? That's not good. To be a true behavior analyst, we have to analyze all of the data that's out there.
Yep.
So that's one. What's another one that you want that you think of?
Um, there is recall bias. So maybe there are, I mean, it's always like that kind of like someone telling a story. There's like two sides of the story. Then there's the truth. So like
Sure.
that's what I kind of think of.
I mean, that one, the recall bias is one that I actually talk about through training with staff, actually. Not calling it specifically a recall bias, but letting them know that if they rely on their memory to record data, that it could be skewed depending on the events that transpire in that session.
Yep.
So, as an example, if client had a tantrum for 5 minutes, but right before the tantrum, there was some really solid data that should have been collected, but the tantrum, happened and prevented the ability to put it in. Well, when you go back, you may not choose not to put that in, or you may choose to put it in less and put negatives instead of like incorrects instead of putting independent trials because of what happened during the escalation. And so that is like a recall bias as well.
Yeah, or like I would say too, in lieu of what you were saying about like a tantrum, right? Maybe the tantrum lasted so long that now you can't even remember what the antecedent was.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so then your BCBA is like, so what caused it? And then you're like, so it's like sometimes it's like, is it better to just be like, I don't know, or you know. So.
Yeah. No, I agree. Um, I think another one is conformity bias. Like you just conform to those that are around you. So if you got a group of BCBAs that all do things one way, but you came in and you've got a different perspective, and you're like, oh well, I don't want to cause any trouble, so I'll just go with what they're doing. Well, no, we're a field that is built on analyzing, changing, testing, and assessing. And if you're not going to do that, then what if your way was the better way?
Mm.
Right? We all have to be open to that. And so that's not just on the perspective of the one individual that has a different way of doing things. That's also the perspective of the team members that are on the other side of that and don't want to listen to something else. Well, then that's a problem. You totally should. So I think another one that we can talk about is contrast effect. And so that is when we are comparing individual situations against each other. So this could be person, event, yeah, whatever, right? But you're comparing to the or individual. Like it doesn't have to be compared against each other. So if you're working with basic programming with one kiddo, you compare to the success or lack thereof with another kiddo. But those are completely two different journeys or two different individuals on their own journey that we shouldn't do. And that is a bias that we do. But naturally, as humans, we can't help it sometimes that to compare. Well, this worked here, and why doesn't it work here? I think that's also why we have so many like cookie cutter places that just like copy the same thing because they get stuck in some sort of bias where it's just if it worked here, it's going to work there.
Yes,
but
or it needs to happen this way.
Yeah, but we know that that is not true. So, how do we break them?
I think the first stage is acceptance. No, really, I think it's just like becoming aware of them and knowing that they are a thing. Because I feel like then you can try to be proactive in making sure that none of this stuff is happening. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a great first step. I feel like I've heard that somewhere else before. I just can't put my finger on it. From you? Oh, yeah. Knew it. But yes, so to your point, yeah, being able to accept that they exist, be aware that they're there, I think that's a good place to start. And then we work on like the flexibility. And I think if we wake up every day and when we go to work with our clients, we start as if it's a brand new day, fresh, they're an individual. And everyone that we see is like, you're your own person. It doesn't matter what I did before. It doesn't matter what happens later. What matters right now is this 2 hours, 3 hours, hour, whatever time that I get with you. I'm all about just this. And then separating from whatever else has happened. I think that could also help. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's great. I think those are ways to, again, be proactive rather than like, oh, shoot, we have this problem.
Yeah. So then if we bring this out of like the workplace for a second and even though we're behavior analysts and we analyze each other's behaviors all the time and how our parenting styles are, what did or like what kind of biases did we have as a couple? What kind of biases did you have as an individual or myself as well coming into the relationship? And then what have we created on our own that we, this might be a hard question just to throw out and be able to answer right away. But yeah, because biases are always being developed.
Yeah, I mean, I think even just like the way we were raised is completely different.
Sure.
I think now as a parent myself, there are things that I appreciate that my mom did. And then I look at your parents and there's things that I appreciate that they do. So now working to like blend those things and then also make our own, ways that we want to parent. Whereas before I feel like it was easier for me to be like, no, this is the right way, right? Instead of like, no, you were just raised different than I was. And, there's beauty in both of those. And it's just like seeing it for myself the way that I was like knew to be the way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's that one. I would say also another one, we're like both really confused mixed children.
Oh, okay.
I just feel like, so, just experiencing what I like being a mixed child. I'm half black, half Mexican, and like things that I can identify with, but things that I also maybe feel like I'm an imposter to my own like culture or race or ethnicity, whatever. And then also your own experience of being like, half black, half American black, and then half white. Your mom's from Australia, right? So it's like, I feel like even when we talk about culture, race, ethnicity, those things, I know that I have my own perspective and that I see certain things a certain way. And sometimes you're like, what about like this? And then like going in with the conversation of like, Melina, not everything you think is the right way. So, yeah. I don't know if that makes sense.
I think it does. I'm sure our listeners will tell us.
Yeah.
Um, I do think that we is it confidence bias? Like we're as a couple now, like yeah, we have our own and absolutely, but I feel like we're very confident in who we are as a relationship and that, and so when we see um, others going through like a struggle or something, we end up somehow comparing it to ourselves when we're talking at some point. It's like, well, if they would have tried this could have helped them.
But they're not us.
Yeah, and so that falls into the contrast bias too, right? Is like we're confident in where we are, so we can be overconfident in our relationship at times, and how we talk to each other about things. But then we shouldn't be comparing against other relationships because we will never know what somebody else is battling with or what else somebody's going through. Which is something that we talk about in the workplace, but at home we just do a little differently, right? Because in the workplace, we're talking about our clients. We don't know what they're thinking, what they're going through. We don't know what our families are thinking, what they're going through. So we can't, or we should not be assuming anything. But with us, it's a little bit different because we're outside of that and we're looking at ourselves and the people that we love and care about as well.
Absolutely.
So I think there's that one.
Yeah, that was good.
But yeah, so that pretty much concludes this episode because you guys are probably reaching the place where you're driving to between your sessions.
Yeah. Okay. Last episode we ended with, or an episode, whatever episode that was, we ended with one date that you want to do this year of our marriage that we haven't done yet. Have you thought of it yet?
I mean, there's a bunch of little ones that I feel like would be super cool, but I feel like if I have a whole year to do it and plan for it, it got to be more grand than that.
No, it's just like one thing you want to check off the like, okay, we did that kind of date bucket list.
Jump out of a plane together?
Hell no. That's never happening. I'm sorry. We don't have enough of a life insurance plan. It's non-existent right now. So we got to do that first. Anyways, I was going to say like, like maybe like we go on a Duffy boat together. We have never been on one together. I've been on one several times.
Are you going to drive?
Hell no. I tried doing it once and for like 2 seconds and I was like, nah, I'm good. For sure thought I was going to run into all the yachts. So yeah, I'll serve you charcuterie while you drive. Orange County living. Okay? Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in and we will see you next time.
Bye guys.